Hey y'all, thanks for tuning in to episode 3 of season 2. Just give me sobriety from chaos, whatever that looks like. And just a reminder, the reason that the podcast has that end of the title, whatever that looks like, is because my experience may not be your experience. If I'm using scripture from the Bible, then obviously that scripture remains, but the way that it um, penetrates your brain, the way that it navigates your life may hit differently. That's happened to me numerous times. When I was 20, a scripture might have done something different than it did when I was 43. So I just want to name that every situation that I've been through may not be the same for you. It may not hit the same for you, but the advice is true for what I've experienced and has is true for what has helped me. So I just want to make sure that we're understanding that everybody's story and everybody's navigation of life is not going to be the same because all of us are gifted with a different purpose and a different plan for that purpose. Not all advice is universal. So these are my truths and my experiences and the way that I navigated them. So when we're thinking about sobriety from chaos, um, something that I remember pretty vividly as a parent is, you know, how you would be in the living room and you can, you're folding laundry or you're in the kitchen and you're doing dishes and you can hear your kids in the other room screaming or arguing or fighting. And you're like, okay, all is well because they're navigating the world the way they always do, fighting with each other and screaming at the top of their lungs. It'll be that one moment where you're like, wait, it's quiet. And when it's quiet, I know that something is wrong. And inevitably, you would walk in the room, and either your 2-year-old is covered in Vaseline from head to toe, or your 6-year-old has knocked an entire container of flour onto the floor, or insert something that you're going to have to clean up the mess of here. And it made me think about how we do that in our lives as well, right? So we get so accustomed to the chaos that we know and the chaos that we've always known that we don't know how to experience the calm. We don't know how to experience the quiet, and we don't know how to experience peace. And it's funny because even in those spaces, oftentimes that will feel uncomfortable to us. Much like when you know that your kids are being quiet, it gives you a sense of discomfort, like a little shiver down your spine because you know it's about to be on and popping when you walk up in that room. We do the same thing with our lives. And it's really because we're addicted to chaos. And if you think about anything that you've always experienced since the beginning of time, since back to your first memories, if you grew up in a household that was chaotic, you grew up in a family system that was chaotic, then of course that chaos is going to feel like love and normalcy to you. Now, if you're one of those people who didn't grow up in a family system that was chaotic, you still can find yourself in spaces and friendships and in relationships where chaos feels like normalcy to you. It feels like what you're supposed to be experiencing. And when you're addicted to it and when you're accustomed to it, it doesn't feel abnormal. So to like gossip all the time with your friends feels normal because it's what you've always done, even though it's creating chaos in those relationships, it's creating chaos in your mind. And, side note, one of the reasons it does that is because you know that if those friends are gossiping about other people with you, then they're gossiping about you with other people. Um, it's just characters, it's character traits, characteristics of people. And so when you're addicted to that chaos, whatever reason that that's happened, you will walk and navigate in your world literally looking for another hit of that chaos. And in fact, I've spoken to friends that I have, like guys that I know, and I'm sure this happens with females too. I just haven't had these conversations with females, but like I've spoken to guys that I know before, and they've said, it's really weird because if I don't yell at her, then she doesn't think that I care. If I don't scream at the top of my lungs or like lose my entire mind, then that doesn't feel like love to her. And I'm always super inquisitive about those experiences because I'm like, if we really look at the definition of love, by definition, that ain't it. By definition, that chaos and that lack of gentleness is not love. Even if you look biblically, patient, kind, all of these things, like that doesn't look like that. But because it's what someone has always experienced, when they walk into a space where they're not experiencing that anymore, they start to question the intention of that person because what they've known about love, what they've known about their experience is that when someone truly cares and loves you, they're going to not be able to regulate their emotions if something feels big to them. When in fact, when someone cares about you and loves you, they have a stronger desire overprotecting themselves to protect you. So it feels like protection of the self to scream and lose your mind because it's doing what you've always known. But if you want to protect the person that you love, then you're going to be as gentle as you possibly can, especially if you know that that person has come from a toxic environment, whether it be relationship or family system. And so it's so interesting to me how the way that we were raised and our former experiences shape our ladder so much. And if you've been around someone who is an addict before, they know logically the thing is bad for them, right? But it's escaping the thing that's going on inside of them. And so they stick with the addiction because even though to the outside world the addiction is causing them chaos, that addiction and that drug of choice is actually saving them from the chaos that exists inside of them. We just don't see it because we don't know what that is. And so when we're thinking about why we may continue to be addicted to chaos, realistically, the reason that we stay in spaces that we have always known is because of our need for control, reassurance, and predictability. We know that narrative. We know it so well because we lived it for so long that we know what it looks like when there is chaos. We know who we are and how we navigate that world when there is chaos. And so it's more predictable to us. I know what it looks like when someone lashes out when they're angry. And I know how to manipulate by people pleasing or manipulate by fawning or manipulating by freezing or whatever your reaction of choice is. And so I prefer that environment because I know what to do inside of it. I can control myself in that environment. I can control my emotions and my thoughts in that environment. It's so interesting because, if you've listened to anything that I've put out close to Valentine's Day, I always say that I don't celebrate Valentine's Day. And the reason I don't celebrate Valentine's Day is because I'm not a huge fan of made up holidays. Like those Hallmark holidays, they really don't mean anything to me because I always feel like if you really love that person or you're really honoring them for the title that they hold in your life, whether it be mother, father, grandparent, whatever it is, that you would hold true to honoring them every day. You wouldn't need a specific day to do that. However, I will say that part of the reason why I had that feeling toward like the lovey-dovey holidays, and this only came to me as I unpacked that, is because I was so used to not being celebrated that I like detested the entire holiday because I knew how to operate inside of that chaos. There's no expectation for a gift. And so, therefore, I know how to handle my emotions when there isn't a gift. And so, therefore, I know how to handle that lack of, right? I know how to make it part of my narrative. But then when I had somebody actually buy me a gift, it's such a weird thing because it's like, oh, that's this person's love language. That's the way they show love. And they bought me a gift. It's beautiful. And I immediately started placing value on the gift because it made me feel frantic that that person would value me that much. And I didn't know how to operate in that space. And don't we do that quite often with the way that we navigate? We'll make excuses and plans and narratives in order to control the situation in such a way that it lends itself back to what we know. So what I know is not being celebrated. I know how to navigate in the space where I'm not celebrated. I often used to say I'm a big girl with grown-up emotions. I know how to handle that. But when that is no longer the space, what do you do with it? And so something as simple as getting a gift, I'm like, I don't to do this one. And that's what we do when we're addicted to chaos. We know how to operate inside of that chaos. So we continue to remain addicted to it because it gives us a sense of control. It gives us reassurance because if this is the love that I've always known, then it must be true that if it's rearing its head from the other people in my life right now, that that must be love too. And it's that predictability of knowing I know how this person is going to respond, even if it's not the same person. I know characteristics of these type of people. I know how that person is going to respond. And so therefore I know who I can be inside of this space. But it doesn't have to be that way, right? You can redetermine your definition of peace. You can commit to no longer allowing chaos to be a part of your life. You can really latch on to the fact that not only do you deserve peace, but the control that you're looking for inside of the chaos is actually what you gain inside of your peace. And sometimes it feels uncomfortable, but it still is possible. And so how do we switch from that addiction to chaos to that desire for peace? And I should say addiction to peace. Like that was always what I was going to say, but then I stopped myself. But it should be. You should be so married to feeling that sense of peace in your life, in your body, in your mind, that you won't accept anything less than that, right? You should be so accustomed to what that feels like that you wouldn't even latch on to a piece of chaos because that's not for you, right? And so one of the things that I learned through this journey of getting the chaos out of my body and then changing my thinking and really latching on to knowing that I wanted peace more than I wanted anything else is that you have to be able to accept a tribe that is going to be free of drama. Because I cannot tell you that analogy about the bad apple spoiling the whole bunch, it is 100% accurate. Because if you're hanging around people, and I don't care what their title is, because as I've said before, their title does not entitle them to you. But if you're hanging around people who are gossiping and negative and constantly in a state of chaos in their lives, that is something that you're going to mimic and it's going to infiltrate your mindset. Even if you don't intend for it to, it will. And so you have to latch on to a tribe that is not about that. You know that when you walk away from their table, they're speaking your name to other people, but they're speaking it to make a connection because they see the purpose in your life. They might be gossiping about what you did, but they're gossiping about how amazing you are at your craft. Like I've walked away from tables with people that I just met this year, and they preached my praises so loudly that I became friends with their friends because the character traits that I was showing to them, they knew that their friends would want to be friends with me too. And if you're in a space where your friends are talking so negatively about you when you leave the room, that you have people who are angry at you when you've never even spoken to them, or you don't really have a friendship with it and you didn't do anything to them for them to be angry about, those are not your people. Your tribe is important. It is important. And we are wired for connection. We are not wired to be in silo and by ourselves. That's why things like, you know, connect groups at church work so well, because if you're with like-minded people who are of the spirit, then those people are going to draw you closer to the spirit. Like that's the point. That's why it's important to have a partner who's going to pray over you, for you, and with you, because that person is going to draw you closer to God. And so when your tribe is full of drama, then you have no choice but for your life to feel chaotic. So you got to change your tribe. You got to say, God, above all else, I want a group of people who are going to understand me, see me, and give me grace, but also do that same thing for the people that are around them when they aren't in the room. who are going to speak my name the way you would like for my name to be spoken, because those are my people. The second thing is that you have to find comfort in discomfort. And it's interesting because a lot of times we don't see that. We want this like gradual progression, this slow process to getting to another space. And we forget that that's going to be uncomfortable, because if we aren't continuing to do things the way that we've always done them, then there's going to be some discomfort. I mean, you think about if you change your hands on the space in the steering wheel, right? Like, we're so accustomed to the way that we drive. Like, if you're a 10 and 2, you're going to be a 10 and 2. If you try to change to 12 and 3, that's going to feel very weird to you when you're driving. And that's something as small as where you put your hands on the steering wheel. So the discomfort that you're going to experience when you're trying to evolve and change yourself is going to be astronomical. But if you don't want to live in chaos, you have to experience discomfort to understand what peace is like. When I started doing yoga, it was uncomfortable. Like downward dog, my calves are on fire right now. Like, the stretch is real. What is happening? But that discomfort is the greatest gift I could have given myself, to feel what peace feels like in my body, because I did not know. I had always had anxiety. I had always been anxious from as long as I can remember. And I didn't know what it felt like to be able to sit in a room and someone walks in the door and you don't automatically go to 100 thinking, oh my God, they're going to be mad. What are they going to say? What are they going to critique? How are they going to be frustrated with me? Whatever. Like, to be able to have someone walk in to my space right now and know, like, they're not even thinking about me, and I don't really care if they are, because I've done my best today and that's all I need to know, right? So like, it's going to get uncomfortable, and even training myself to no longer need those levels of cortisol in my body, uncomfortable, even though it was something that was good for me. It's like when you think about when you start this new workout plan, or when you start this new eating plan, right? Sometimes it's uncomfortable. Like, I'm hungry and this doesn't feel like enough food for me. It's not satiating me. Or I have to deny myself this thing because I'm trying to stick to the healthy way. Or when you go to do the workouts, the only way to grow your muscles is to lift heavier weights. And when you lift heavier weights, that is uncomfortable. There's a feeling of discomfort in those minute or 2 minutes that you're doing it. But just like I say during workouts, you can do anything for 30 seconds. You can do anything that you put your mind to if you're more attached to peace than you are to anything else. And that discomfort will go away. Eventually, you'll get used to what it feels like to be loved in a gentle way. Eventually, you'll get used to what it feels like to be in spaces where people are not gossiping. Eventually, you'll get used to what it feels like to not be addicted to chaos and to be able to rest in peace. And the last thing is that you have to latch on to evolution instead of familiarity. The devil that we know is still a devil. And if you've heard that phrase before, it's like, I know what to do with the devil that I know. It's easier to dance with the devil that I know, because I know his next step. I know his moves, and I know how to get ahead of him and move the way that I need to move in order for his destruction to be less. But let me tell you this. When you are so addicted to peace and you are so attached to peace that you no longer will let chaos in your life, you don't have any devils that you have to keep track of. Now, obviously, there is a devil, and he might be doing some things to try to go up against you, but you don't have these people in your world who are trying to destroy everything. You don't have these situations in your life that are trying to destroy everything. So you don't have to spend and expend energy trying to calm the chaos, because you've already detached yourself from the things that are going to create it. And therefore, the circumstantial things that create chaos, you're better equipped to deal with them because you've created a peace in your life and you've latched onto God's peace that surpasses all understanding. So you're able to deal with those circumstantial pieces of chaos in your life. And so today, I just encourage you, if you really want peace in your life, you have to sober up from the addiction to chaos. And these 3 things that I just told you are the first step to doing it. But if you would really like to take that journey, I have attached the link for a PDF that I created. It's a free download for you to go through the steps of the 6 shifts of navigating peace and walking into peace. So click on that and go ahead and download that PDF. Also, remember that I'm here for you. So if you send me a DM and you ask me any questions or you want me to navigate you through the process, I would be happy to help. If you are one of those people who need to see me on social media and save my reels and those type of things, go ahead and find me on all social media sites. Go ahead and click on the link to my website where you get your blog every Wednesday. Remember that this Peace podcast comes out every Monday. If this is your first time listening, go back and listen to last season's episodes. There are, I think, 60 of them to listen to there. And remember that you're not navigating this journey alone. I would love to help you move through this space. So thank you again for listening. I appreciate you all. And if you are on my social media sites, look for the videos this week. And if you're into that peace journey, you'll see a ton of new content coming out on a weekly basis to help you navigate it. Remember, if you are a podcast listener or you've gone to my YouTube channel, remember to subscribe and like and share it with your friends so that the word can get out to other people. I appreciate you, and I'm so glad that you took your 30 minutes today to listen to some ways to navigate your life into peace. I'll see you next time.